There are three parts to this presentation that we're going to take you through today. The first one is going to be an overview of the New York State Clean Heat statewide consumer awareness and education campaign, the marketing campaign that'll be launching in mid-April. So we're going to take you through a lot of different elements of that. And then we're going to cover very quickly NYSERDA's cooperative advertising and training program for eligible contractors that are participating in New York State Clean Heat contractors, as well as participating in some other NYSERDA programs. And then lastly, if you are not a New York State Clean Heat participating contractor, there's a couple slides at the end that talk about how to go ahead and get enrolled in that program so that you can reap the many, many benefits of that program. I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance today. So, New York State Clean Heat Consumer Awareness and Education Program. So, quite a while ago, gosh, almost a year or so ago, the Department of Public Service put out an order for the New York State Clean Heat program, and part of that order was a mission for NYSERDA and the New York State investor-owned utilities to come together and launch a universal marketing effort to educate residents of the state on the many benefits of clean heating and cooling technology. So we've been actively working towards that, like I said, for almost a year now, and that working group that we formed has NYSERDA representatives from both marketing and from NYSERDA's Clean Heating and Cooling Program team, as well as at least one representative from each utility, and then KSV, which is NYSERDA's marketing agency of record, is also a member of that working group. So we all came together to guide the development, rollout, and performance reporting of an integrated marketing campaign. We wanted to be thoughtful and ensure that NYSERDA and all the utilities were really collaborating together, that we were all going to be coming together with one message, saying the same thing to all the residents across the state, and being really coordinated in all of our efforts. So the goals. On the left-hand side, you'll see the New York State Clean Heat goals, which overarching are 3.6 TBTUs of energy savings by the year 2025. So we looked at that big overarching goal and tried to break that down into numbers that made sense to someone like me on the marketing team. And to do that, we needed to get to, like, how many installations do we think that would be? What are we looking to achieve with the marketing? So we broke that down and came up with a number of approximately 130,000 heat pump installations. And if we were to take that number and apply, traditional marketing logic, how many leads would we need to generate each one of those installations? And that rolled up to approximately 1 million leads. So that's what the marketing effort is looking to generate through this campaign. On the right is really what the marketing goals broke down to. So we're going to be trying to build consumer demand, consideration, and market confidence in heat pumps and their complementary energy efficiency measures like air sealing and insulation. We're looking to drive an increase in awareness and leading to eventual installations of this technology. And then overarching through the campaign efforts, we're hoping to reduce the customer acquisition cost for all of our contractor and installer partners to put the installation of a heat pump more on par with a traditional HVAC furnace or boiler. So the marketing strategy and the audience. So the New York State Clean Heat marketing strategy, like I mentioned in the beginning, really needs to be very well coordinated between NYSERDA's efforts and the utility efforts, and then also with the efforts of all of our partners, our installers, our manufacturers, our distributors, our clean heating and cooling communities, a lot of our partners, local governments, etc. Everyone really needs to be on board and understanding all the efforts that are at play here. So the first two boxes are sort of the marketing strategy for New York State Clean Heat. There's two levels. The first one is to reach all homeowners who meet any of our criteria, which I'll show you that criteria in just a second. And then additionally, we'll be layering on a second level to increase the reach and frequency with, like I said, an additional level of broadcast and out of home in areas across the state that have a high propensity for adoption. Those two buckets are the New York State Clean Heat marketing, and they also encompass a coordinated effort through NYSERDA's Clean Heating and Cooling community campaigns, as well as efforts through our cooperative advertising. And then over to the right is the utility marketing. So that needs to be well coordinated with what the New York State Clean Heat arm is doing. The utilities, however, will be targeting their customers directly. They know a lot of information about their customers as far as like their energy use, perhaps the expected life of their current equipment, and they're going to be targeting their customers directly with that sort of messaging. So who is this audience? Who's going to be seeing this campaign and market? What you'll see on the right here is a chart of what an ideal target looks like of this campaign. It's someone who's not using or have access to natural gas. They own a single or a 1 to 4 family unit property, and someone who has the financial viability for the project. So through many different levels of data and targeting, we're able to look at all of those things and digitally target these customers. We can also be very sensitive in this time of COVID. If someone has recently become unemployed, we could remove them from our targeting and they would not be receiving what could be perhaps deemed as insensitive messaging, to install a heat pump at this time when they have bigger objects at play in their own home. So those first 3 circles that are closest, that's the ideal target. And then layered on top of that in a secondary mechanism is additional targets. So those actively seeking HVAC replacement, which we can tell based on their digital behavior. If they own a home built prior to 1990 or experiencing high HVAC costs, if they're already in that sustainable mindset, perhaps they already have solar or an electric vehicle, all of those make great targets for a heat pump and will be part of our messaging. And then across the bottom, really the optimal point of intersection, if a customer is building a new home, we want to try and get them right off the gate to consider this sort of technology in their build. So the channel ownership of the messaging, I broke this into 3 buckets here so we could try and get an understanding of all the different things that are happening across the state based on marketing channels, So New York State Clean Heat is broadly utilizing awareness and educational messaging. And they're doing that at a broad scale, at a statewide level. So they're using those bullets that you'll see underneath: TV and digital video, terrestrial streaming radio, native advertising, sponsored content, and then a lot of research and educational focused channels like social media, Google banners, and paid search. So again, that's at a really broad statewide level. Directly to the right are some of the things that we're seeing through our cooperative advertising program with our communities, manufacturers, distributors, and installers. And it's the same sort of messaging, but it's happening more at a targeted local level. And a lot of the channels will be the same. The difference between is that while the statewide effort for New York State Clean Heat is happening very broad, this is a more local flavor and level of effort. So similar channels could include social media, direct mail, local publications, local TV and radio, out of home, and of course, any hosted events or webinars. And then across the bottom, we have our utility efforts. So like I said before, they're really focused on targeting their customers and what they already know about them. So they'll be deploying emails to their customer lists, direct mails, targeting them through both owned and paid social media, other digital marketing, and then events. So next, I'm going to turn it over to Tucker, who's joining us here from KSB, NYSERDA's agency of record. He's going to take us through the media, and then he's also going to show us some of the creative that we'll be seeing in market.
Great. All right, if we want to go to the next slide, the media is really broken into a few buckets. The first is, as Corey has mentioned, a very broad, geographically focused digital campaign. And I would say digital in quotation marks because a lot of these digital channels are targeted based on a user's address and IP address, but they can experience many of them in a more traditional way. So one of the things that we'll be using, leveraging MLS data and customer purchase data, is addressable TV. At the highest level, addressable TV is finding the specific households that we want to reach with our message and delivering to them commercials that would happen in episodic commercial breaks on their TVs, but they're delivered through an internet connection. At this juncture, about 80% of all New York State homes have an internet connected TV, and that's how we'd be really targeting them to really help make our media dollars go as far as possible. So we would be reaching only those households that are the most likely to adopt the technology and promoting the benefits of it in this long format video. We'd also be looking at advanced TV, which is, again, people watching episodic, 30-minute or 60-minute TV shows, but they're watching that on maybe a laptop or maybe a tablet. So it's still sort of, they're in their Comcast app, but they're watching TV not on a traditional TV set. So not the standard sort of pre-roll videos or typical digital videos, so really that television experience, just not on a television screen. In addition, we'll be using digital banners, traditional digital video and YouTube, streaming radio that will be purchased not just through specific devices, but across the board of how users access streaming radio, whether that be in their cars, if they're out and about, or through the smart speakers in their home, or just through their mobile device. As Corey mentioned, we'll also be reaching the vast majority of the state with native advertising and sponsored content that will allow for a bit of richer education about the technologies and how they work. And then we'll also be deploying emails, paid social media, and paid search. Last thing to note before we leave this is that most of this media will be running at 2 major flights. Will be in the mid-April through mid-June time period, as well as early September through late November. So we also wanted to layer on an additional level of marketing where we could afford to do so. The budget for this campaign is not infinite, it is finite. And so we want to begin testing some additional layers of channels in specific areas of the state to see if we got further lift from that so that we could optimize in future years. So while this is what we're planning on this year, it doesn't necessarily mean that other areas of the state wouldn't receive similar levels of support in the future. So we identified a few additional regions that we wanted to test broader based non-digitally targeted channels such as cable TV and radio. Those are really the Capital Region corridor all the way through to the Hudson Valley, the Rochester area, the Rochester region or designated market area, which is just the reach of that area's TV and radio, as well as Tompkins County. Most of these regions are getting cable TV and terrestrial radio. The Albany region will also get local news as a test for 4 weeks. While we haven't planned any out of home yet, we are considering adding in out of home in the back half of 2021 or 2022, just depending on how shifts in traffic and travel behavior sort of roll out as more people get vaccinated across the state and hopefully the world gets a bit back to normal. One last thing to note is that I haven't mentioned Westchester County, which is a different color. Westchester has a separate funding and a separate campaign specific to that region. So they are already receiving promotions about heat pumps and weatherproofing.
So Tucker, one question that did come in that I see here in the chat, and now is probably a good time to address it, is why Long Island is not shaded. There was a question, is they're taking that as it's not part of the statewide campaign. So do you want to address that quick?
Sure. So because the LIPA territory does not contribute to the SBC charge, they were not originally going to get this campaign, but we are currently in conversations with PSEG Long Island to actually use the same campaign in their territory in 2021. So while it's not technically a part of New York State Clean Heat, they will likely be customers on Long Island will likely be receiving a very similar channel mix to the rest of the state with similar messaging.
Great, thank you.
In terms of lead definition and tracking, this is a really interesting program because there's a lot of different places where leads can happen, where they can take place. So leads coming from the statewide awareness campaign will really take two forms. The first are people who are coming through the website that's being built for the campaign, where we are capturing information about the folks who are learning about heat pumps. They could either leave their email address, their home address, or some other piece of identifiable information when they want to explore what rebates are available, or if they wanted to find a contractor. So in order to find a contractor, they have to put in their address so that we can pair them with the contractors that service their area, all of you. There's also, through the co-op marketing program, as well as all of your intakes, the opportunity for customers to go directly to contractors, go directly through your own marketing, and engage with you and ask for a consultation or an estimate, whether that be through a clean heating and cooling community, through your websites directly. There's definitely a path where maybe a consumer gets educated by the campaign, but they separately, already have a trusted relationship with an existing HVAC contractor and they want to reach out to you directly. So that's another way that leads from the statewide campaign could be implemented through you all directly. We do expect a relatively high volume of leads. One thing to note is that in Westchester County this fall, there were approximately 100 leads per week generated through the website. So we just want to make sure that, this group knows that the campaign and education and awareness does help drive interest. And collectively, we're responsible for documenting our impact through every stage of the decision-making process. So, these are home improvement projects. The process can take a while, from a few months to a few years, depending on the age of the home, the age of their current system. So, we might be educating somebody today, but they might not actually need a new system or reach out to a contractor for a year or two. And so that's why we're capturing those addresses so that we can be comparing people who might have been educated at one point to people who eventually get an install down the road. And this will really require a lot of data sharing across all entities, including the utilities, and hopefully all of the New York State Clean Heat contractors as well. Getting into creative samples. So we're really focused on a few different aspects of heat pumps. The first being, all of these, what we're calling ER words, the fact that a heat pump is a 2-in-1 system that can keep you warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Things like convenience and that it's easier and that it's a smarter choice. Also that it's greener. You see this example messaging here, goodbye fossil fuels, hello cleaner comfort. And then this is an email example all the way to the right. Some of you may have seen similar creative in the past year or so because it has started to run in a pilot fashion and we've seen very good results. But we're expanding the campaign and we're really making it richer and more storytelling. So if we go to the next slide, these are still in mock-up form because we are still in production, but we'll be doing more lifestyle-focused imagery that highlight the benefits of the product, tell stories about the product. You see some social media here, as well as some sponsored content and native ads, but we also have new television spots that are really great, as well as radio and custom imagery, which we're really excited about to have some custom heat pump imagery to use. So there's a lot of great things happening from a creative standpoint and creative asset standpoint for us. And I will pass it back to Corey to talk about the landing environment.
Thank you. All right, so I did see one of the questions come in through the chat about where we were driving people. So the landing environment will be going live with the campaign, and the URL will be cleanheat.ny.gov. So that'll be live, like we said, we're expecting in mid-April. So the website structure, sorry, I was a little delayed there, is really quite, I don't want to call it simple. It's not overly simple, but there's really clear paths for the customer to take. We didn't want to overwhelm them with options. We really wanted them to become familiar with heat pumps and then be able to explore and learn a little bit on their own, show them what sort of rebates and financing is available to them specifically, and then connect them with contractors and installers. So in the first column here, you'll see a lot of the educational information will be broken into pages like the benefits of switching from a fossil fuel system over to a heat pump, how they work, the ability to compare options, which will be going live a little bit later than mid-April, probably by mid-May. And that will be a lead into NYSERDA's new heat pump planner, which I know some of our contractors and installers have been hearing about for a little while now, which will allow customers to answer a couple questions about their current home, like how many stories it is, perhaps if they have ducts or no ducts for airflow, and then also if they're looking for a whole home or just like a single space sort of solution, and it'll guide them to a schematic of what a heat pump system would look like, talk about all the individual components, things to consider, benefits of one versus another, and then drive them, again, like we said, to existing contractors. There'll be an option for them to learn about what to expect, like what happens when you do a heat pump project inside your home, and then ultimately how to get started. The second column here, I'm going to take you through a little bit of a user path there. But you'll see it's about rebates and financing options, and then the find a contractor. So the home page will really be geared toward the educational path. There'll be one hero sort of image, which you can see here on the right-hand side, and then the call to action will be learning more. Customers will be able to scroll down and connect to some of that deeper content within the site, or get to other sections that they're looking for. So the compare your options plan, which I did talk a little bit about, this is just an example. Obviously, we're not going to be talking about cars on the website, but it just gives you an idea of being, something that we're all familiar with. When you're looking at buying a new car, you might want to put a couple of them side by side and see what the different options between the two models would be. This sort of information will be presented similarly regarding heat pumps to consumers, so they can get an idea of what might work best or what they might be interested in before they connect with an installer. So the available rebate path is going to ask customers 4 pretty simple questions to be able to present them with options that are unique to them. So this is a statewide website, which encompasses, NYSERDA and all 6 utility programs. We don't want to present customers with all 6 utility programs. That would be very overwhelming to them, as you could imagine. So we want to try and get them identified and aligned with what covers their area. So they'll be asking for address. They'll be identifying their home type. A question surrounding their age or insulation level will also be asked, and that's to determine if something like air sealing and insulation might be a good fit for them as well. So when they answer those 4 questions, they'll be presented with a list of options, and it'll be unique to the utility that services them. They'll find in those options the clean heating and cooling community that they can connect with, a listing of the utility rebate programs for air source, ground source, or heat pump water heaters, and then any applicable NYSERDA programs that they might be interested in as well, like the Comfort Home program or our Empower or Assisted Home Performance programs. If a customer wants to find a contractor directly, this path will again ask them for their address, and there will be optional questions if they would like to answer them. So if they know perhaps that they really want a ground source heat pump, they'll be able to select that as an option right up front. If they don't know what they're looking for, that's also quite all right. And they can bypass that and just get the list of the New York State Clean Heat participating contractors presented to them. So what they will see after they input at least their address is the list of contractors, like I said, which will be randomized. It'll only be the contractors that service them in their unique area. There'll be the ability to click through to a contractor's email address, website, or phone number, and we will have the ability to kind of track all that information so we can then see how many leads are being passed through. Customers will have the ability to then further segment the list at this stage. So if they didn't know what they were looking for in the first step, and then they get here, perhaps now they want to see how many air source contractors versus ground source or something like that, they'll have the ability to sort the list. And then ultimately they'll have the ability to email themselves this list of contractors for later follow-up. Okay, so that kind of wraps up a quick overview of the New York State Clean Heat cooperative, not cooperative advertising, that's what I'm looking at, the statewide consumer awareness and education campaign. So I wanted to talk briefly about the cooperative advertising program because we did reference it a lot in here and it has a lot of connective tissue to the marketing effort. So if you're not familiar with the co-op advertising program, what it is a cost sharing program where NYSERDA will help cost share the amount of money it takes to advertise in your areas. So if you're doing a direct mail piece, perhaps to customers in your area, and you want to encourage them to use you to install a new ductless mini split system, NYSERDA will help cost share what it takes to advertise for that. So the incentives, the cost sharing is capped at 50%. That would be the maximum amount NYSERDA would cover. The funds do run currently through the end of next year, so the end of 2022. Contractors and installers are really the bottom row here. So it's about, let me find it. No, $100,000 is the maximum cap you can submit for in a calendar year. So for example, if you spend $200,000 in advertising in a calendar year, NYSERDA may be able to reimburse you up to $100,000 of that. The cap is a little bit higher for manufacturers. That's $200,000 a year, and then distributors are weighted the same as installers at $100,000. There are caps for training as well. Not going to get into all the specifics of that, but later at the end of this, there is a link to this program that I encourage you to check out if you are at all interested. In order to participate in the cooperative advertising, you have to be a participating contractor through one of NYSERDA's many programs, or you have to be a New York State Clean Heat participating contractor. So NYSERDA's marketing and program teams both review all of the applications. We're looking for cost effectiveness, the messaging, making sure it's focused on, you know, heat pumps or air sealing and insulation, not furnaces or boilers. The geography of coverage has to be located within the SBC territory, and the messaging needs to be focused on the technology's benefit. Something like energy savings, health, safety, comfort, convenience, etc. And there is a reporting requirement that will happen on the payment request, where we will be required to submit the number of leads and projects to NYSERDA that advertising did generate. So if you are not already a New York State Clean Heat participating contractor, I did want to mention, I'm sorry, this runs into two lines. It didn't originally. You might want to visit this website, saveenergy.ny.gov/NYS Clean Heat. When you get to that website, it's a really clear path where you need to follow. The main hero image has this Enroll Now button that you can see in the bottom left, or you can access it up in the top right navigation. And there are really just two steps to becoming a contractor. Step one is the contractor application. There's only one application, and then there is an agreement for each utility company that you want to be able to offer incentives for. So that's step one, complete those. Step two, there's a NYSERDA participation agreement that you submit. And when you do those two steps, you then become a participating contractor, which gives you access to all these things over on the right-hand side. Not only the incentive applications, but also you'll be able to offer Green Jobs, Green New York financing, participate in the co-op program, and be listed as a participating contractor on all the various websites. So these are three of the links that I wanted to share with you. So the first one is the Coming Soon website for the campaign, cleanheat.ny.gov. The second one, I apologize, I know this is pretty long here, but I'll leave this screen up while we take Q&A, is for the Cooperative Advertising Program. And then lastly, if you're not a participating New York State Clean Heat contractor, that's the website that you want to visit to get yourself signed up to do so. So I am going to look back over here on the chat and address any questions that have come in. And I invite any of my other panelists to feel free to take any of these. Let's see what we've got here. Are the 1 million estimated leads expected to occur in 2021? And how do you define a lead? So the leads, the campaign is slated to run over the next 5 years. So that's where the 1 million leads would come from. And that's the baseline goal. Obviously, we're always aiming for more than that. And then how we qualify what a lead is or define it. That's really anybody that visits the website and clicks through to either discover what their available rebates are or find a contractor. Let's see. Where are you driving consumers? So again, that's that top link that you see here on the page, cleanheat.ny.gov. Are contractors able to use the program creative and customize it with their own logo and contact information? Excuse me. Does anybody else want to take that one for me while I get a sip of water? Okay. Yes. So we are building out a toolkit that will be launched for all of the contractors that participate through the Cooperative Advertising Program. I don't think we're going to open it up just to anybody and everybody. It will be limited to people that participate through that co-op program, but we'll be leveraging the same creative, and then they will have the ability to add their own logos. Yes. How are you matching contractors with leads? So when the leads come in, they can click through to source their own contractor, basically. You know, you have to be a New York State Clean Heat participating contractor to be on the list, but they'll be able to click right through to the website or contact the contractor directly. Why is sealed listed separately? So sealed is a financing option, and they don't have a direct relationship with New York State Clean Heat through the program, but we did want to present it as an option to the market, as it is pretty much available statewide. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just skimming through all the comments that have come in. Can customers take advantage of this now before mid-April? So the campaign will be launching in mid-April. The rebates and incentives are currently available through all of the utilities. So any participating New York State Clean Heat contractor can offer them at any time, but the website won't be available until mid-April. Will ground source be promoted as an option? Most definitely. Ground source will be promoted throughout the creative, and especially heavy in the new construction creative that will be going out into market. When will the campaigns begin in other unshaded parts of the state? So if you remember the first chart we looked at that was all yellow, that'll be beginning in mid-April. So that's both the shaded areas and the all yellow. Everything will be targeted to begin mid-April. All right. It looks like the majority of the questions, there are some technical questions in here that I cannot answer exactly, but I will certainly pass them around to the technical team, and we'll have somebody follow up with you. So thank you everybody for your time today. We're done a little bit early. Do any of my panelists have anything they'd like to say?
No, thank you, Corey, for taking all those Q&As. I didn't know if I should answer any of them, so thank you for doing it all.
Great. All right, so I will download this recording and we'll make this available on NYSERDA's website. Under NYSERDA's website, there is a page for New York State Clean Heat currently. I'll plan on posting the recording and a copy of this presentation there. And then if you have any specific questions about the campaign, there is a shared email box. It's NYSERDA Marketing, all one word, at nyserda.ny.gov. You can feel free to send any questions about the marketing campaign to that mailbox, and we will be sure to follow up with you. Thanks for your time today, everybody. Have a great day. Enjoy some of the sun.
Great job, Corey.